Welcome, my friends. Just a little quick video today on water. And, most people might ask, why am I doing a video on something so elementary? Just because it is so elementary and so few people know some of the subtle details about what it really means to be hydrated. Our body's mostly water, for anywhere from 70 to 80 and even higher percent, 85% and more. Different sources vary on it, but no question about it, hands down, the majority of your body. And the number one sign of dehydration is fatigue, which is like commonplace. Well, oh yeah, I'm tired, let's have coffee, let's have this and that, which makes you more dehydrated and more tired, okay? So one of the main things you need to know about water is drink it the first thing you get up, when you first get up. First thing, after you brush your teeth and grooming, water before food, okay? In general, if you drink water a half hour before any meal, your digestion will be a lot better. It's just like, I can't even begin to get into all of the reasons for this, okay? But the majority of people are incredibly, incredibly dehydrated, which is arguably the number one, cause of aging, basically. The difference between a grape and a raisin is the same difference between a newborn and an elder, much elder, is hydration. One is plump and juicy, and one is, shriveled up and not hydrated, okay? But a couple of things that will help you, even if you got all those details, have a glass of water first thing in the morning, not juice, not water filled. I love that when people are like, well, purified water is the main ingredient in this soda, or whatever. You're not getting it. Water, okay? Because when you start adding other stuff to it, your body recognizes that as food. I do a ton of superfoods, like a good, raw guy that I am. That's different. That's the second glass of the day will be that. The first, water, okay? So a couple things that'll help you. David Wolf brought this to my attention, and I really, really like this. The oceans. This is a jar, of used to be holy basil leaf, by the way, the most sacred plant of ancient India, in terms of Ayurveda. But once I finished these holy basil pills, I filled this up with 4 different kinds of salt, 3 different kinds of sea salt, a white, a red, and a black, okay? And then Himalayan sea salt. And a lot of people are Himalayan only, but David Wolf mentioned something really interesting about that, because the sea salt was, basically alive and in a medium of life, much sooner than the crystal sea salt from the Himalayas, which have been buried in the earth for thousands of years. Your body tends to recognize and absorb this a little bit better. I still use Himalayan. A quarter of this is Himalayan. It's very, very pure salt. But I do like the sea salt for its bioavailableness, so to speak, okay? And what I do is, a couple of things with my water, is I add a pinch of this to my water, okay? So I've got that in there. That's like, literally, it's just a little bit more than a pinch. Just drop it in there, okay? And then, because the oceans, this is a theory that I heard from David Wolf, which I agree with, just kind of reflecting on it, really just on a level of common sense. The oceans are salty for many reasons, but one of them is to keep the water on the planet, because it has to do with like magnetism, and like it's just because when a current, so to speak, of energy, and it's all about energy. Anything to optimize your energy, right, will run a lot more, effectively through water that has proper, minerals, salt in it, so forth. Okay, much, much better. So that's another thing. You're eating all this good food, but you're not hydrated, and you don't have the right mineral balance and pH. You're not going to get the full, effect of your food that you could be getting. So that's one of the things. When you add a pinch of sea salt to the water, like the ocean's helping keep the water on the planet better, this helps keep it in your body better. Okay, and so it also gives a little bit of structure to the water, because everywhere in nature that water exists, it exists in a wave form. Until we get a hold of it, we put it in bottles, we put it in big silos, we put it in pipes. There's no structure in the water. And that's why you have these machines like the Vitalizer that I use myself, that spirals the water. It's putting that spiral. Qigong, language of energy, is a spiral. That's why all these spiraling forms, circle breath, it's all about the spiral of energy. Hold the Qi ball and all this spiraling. That's the language of energy. You're putting that structure back in there, that wave. It's really what waves are spirals. This is a two-dimensional shape, but if you look at a wave three-dimensionally, it's actually moving in a spiral. So that gives the energy. And Nassim Haramein talks a lot about that. My favorite, physicist. Online, you can type him up. Amazing material there too. He talks all about the spiral, the language of energy, and how this relates to water and everything else. So I put a pinch of sea salt in there, and then what I do is I shake it up. And I'm doing that for two reasons. First of all, to get the salt equally distributed, because a lot of times you just drop it in there, it'll just be like the last sip, you're like, oh, tasting the ocean. But I'll shake it up, and notice I'm shaking it. I'll really shake it, because similar to the vitalizer that I have that spirals the water, this gives a little bit of structure back to the water. Okay, I'm putting movement, I'm putting energy in there. I'll even kind of like meditate on it, like as I'm doing it, kind of like Qigong, when we do healing Qigong, you inhale into your center, your dantian, and you project it. I'll project it into my water, like inhale and exhale the qis, literally spiraling out of my hand. You can play around with all this. I mean, what do you think all this blessing, they've done research, the water, where you yell at the water and talk trash to the water, and you do microscope, it looks all deformed and crazy. And if you bless the water, I love the water, you put little happy messages, light, love, and gratitude, or whatever you want to align with, the water hears it. This is the most receptive element, and arguably the most powerful for that reason, of all the elements. People want to talk about fire and the cycle of the elements. What element controls fire? Okay, water's huge. So when you shake it, you put a little structure into the water, and you can just taste it. It can taste better. All right? So you can do that. One real quick note, I wasn't even planning on covering, I've talked about this in other little videos. I wanted to, because everyone's like, what kind of water do you use? Spring water, reverse osmosis, Kagan, all these different kinds of water, distilled, whatever. There's really no, I would say, just to give you the quick soundbite, bottom line is you want to have, I would say the essence, the main thing, if I could just tell you one thing about water, is don't consume fluoride. I mean, just right there in your face. Don't consume fluoride. It's in the after Hitler, they banned it in all of Europe, but for some reason in the United States we have fluoride in our water. And it's a total, it gets into all the conspiracy and stuff. I'm not going to go that far. It's just a simple matter of factual science that fluoride is completely toxic to your whole system, including your teeth, okay? It's not even good for your teeth. All right, so you can tell I get a little fired up, but it's a big deal. And especially kids drinking it totally retards your brain, all your glands, pineal, it's just like, it goes on and on and on. So you do not want to have fluoridated water. So I have, as you'll notice, a pure thing on my sink. That doesn't take out fluoride. I use that just to wash my vegetables. You need reverse osmosis, okay? That's the cheapest way to purify your water, just like RO machine. Very cheap. Put them under the sink or beside the sink, whatever, gets it out. Even this company, Aquasana, they gave me this snazzy little bottle. I'm not affiliated with them or whatever. I should get paid for this. But they have a cheap, they've got some great technology for filtering showers, and they've got a real cheap, I don't even think it's reverse osmosis, but it does get out most of the fluoride. But of course the big daddy, and I just like the name, Aquasana, like an asana from yoga, so that's why I use this bottle. But the big daddy, there's just no two ways about it, of clean water is distilled water. That gets it the cleanest. That's a clean slate. Because again, anywhere water goes, it picks up information everywhere it goes. I mean, vibrationally, it's kind of a big picture when you get into all the different layers of water. But distilled water gets it clean. But of course, there's no minerals in it. And that's what everyone says. Oh, well, there's no minerals, it's bad for you. There's some mixed press on that. As I mentioned in one of my other videos, Jeff Premack, Press on Qi, one of the most famous Qigong masters in this country, really amazing workshops he does for $100. You can go for 4 days of immersion in Qigong and get yourself activated. He even mixes in a little bit of Kundalini technology in there. Amazing. So I haven't been, but I know enough about his system to endorse it. But what I do really like is his work that he does with smoothies. He has this book that talks about 3 horsepower blending, basically Blendtec or Vitamix blending, and he uses distilled water for everything. And he's done a lot of research on the effect. They're right. When there are no minerals, it pulls some of the minerals out of your body, but primarily what it pulls out is all the stuff that has to do with basically arthritis. It pulls the junk out of your joints. People are using distilled water nowadays to as a treatment for arthritis. So that's something to keep in mind, because that's a big deal nowadays, especially with the super high protein diets, the SAD, the standard American diet that people are on. That junk stores up in your joints. You can't digest all that. and it stores up in your joints, and so that's another consideration for the vegan lifestyle. But even if you don't want to go that far, distilled water is really good. And then you can add other electrolytes. There's other things I'll add to this too, like shilajit, or as it translates, mineral pitch, the destroyer of weakness. I love shilajit. I'll put a little bit in there, and that's like if I really want to turn on the energy. But the main thing that I put in here is a dash of salt. Sometimes the first thing in the morning I'll put a little bit of lemon juice because that alkalinizes the body. But have your water first thing in the morning, and put some salt in there. And remember, first sign, you can shake it if you want to, put a little structure in there. First sign of dehydration is fatigue. Once you're thirsty, you are way dehydrated. Don't wait to be thirsty. Pretty much everyone, even the healthy ones, yogis and all of them, oh, I don't want to drink water. It'll dilute, the high that I've worked so hard to get in yoga. BS. And when I say BS, I mean belief system. I wouldn't adopt that belief system. Your body's made out of water, support yourself and drink plenty of it. Okay? Because that's one of the major, there's so much research. Last little thing I'll say, because I said this would be a short video, you can tell the information is just coming out. There's this famous doctor that Tony Robbins talks about, and I forget his name, but he was in a jail, like some war thing, like he wasn't a criminal or anything, but something he had to be there for like 5 years. All he had was water, and he just basically had people drink and drink and drink and drink, cured all these high level diseases. I won't use the C word and get sued, but like that level, like you're dying stuff, just flooding with water, gone. We just take it so for granted. And it's amazing. Sometimes when I'm at home more and my water's sitting right there, I drink less of it than when I'm out and I have to carry this with me just because we just don't think about it. Drink your water. And put a little dash of sea salt in there. That'll make it a lot more assimilatable, especially if you're going and doing like saunas, jacuzzis and stuff, which I love. Definitely, anytime, working out, anytime you need to really hydrate, a little bit of sea salt, or frankly, any type of, crystal Himalayan, whatever. But again, for the reasons I already described, I do like the sea salt, So there you go, my friends. Little video on water. And one last just little soundbite for your consideration. You want to eat, on the subject of hydration, water-rich foods. That's another one of the genius aspects of the raw lifestyle, is that you're eating foods that are water-rich. Okay? And so, you can drink all the water, but when you're having vegetables and fruits and all this, they're perfectly balanced with the minerals and the vitamins and the nutrients and the water and everything. Your body absorbs it so much easier, especially the mega water-rich ones like, watermelon, cucumber. They are just like a powerhouse of hydration and vitamins and minerals. So you want to have 70% of your diet to be water-rich foods. Most of the vegans even the raw vegans don't hit those numbers. We just, we have all this heavy nuts and all this stuff, which I do too. I need the solid stuff, but really get your hydration because it'll slow your aging down. None of the stuff will stop aging or even reverse it. You can't reverse it, but you can slow it way down. Way down. Chill out. Have your water. Okay? I offer you these tools with humility and with love in my heart. Practice well and be well, my friends.